Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Amazing Sharks with me, Takara. So, thanks to one of my channel's viewers, he said he would like to hear more about prehistoric sharks. So, I thought that would be a fun subject to go into for this week's video. That is a big shout out to M. McCooney6225. So he was interested in seeing a video on prehistoric sharks. So just a little background on prehistoric sharks. Most fossil evidence of early sharks exists as fossil teeth along with a few skin impressions. The earliest known evidence of sharks are fossil scales that date over 420 million years ago during the early Silurian. During the Carboniferous period, sharks went through a period of diversification, resulting in the evolution of many new forms. Many of these became extinct during the Permian, with the remaining sharks undergoing adaptive radiation during the Jurassic when the skates and rays first appeared. Modern forms of sharks evolved during the Jurassic period about 150 million years ago, during the time of the giant dinosaurs. Between 2000 and 3000 ancient shark species have been described based on fossil evidence. Ancestral sharks date back before the earliest known dinosaur, although dinosaurs are long gone, sharks still live on. Fossils are remains, traces, or impressions of ancient life preserved in rocks. These include mineralized bone, teeth, and shells, as well as casts of footprints, scales, skin, hair, and dung. Certain conditions must exist for fossilization to occur. It requires insulation from microbial destruction of the tissue, along with a supply of soluble minerals to take the place of the tissues. If conditions are right, the once living tissues may be replaced very slowly to create a cast in stone of the original structure. However, since these conditions rarely exist, most organic material dissolves, leaving an incomplete fossil record, which means that with all the species of prehistoric sharks and extinct sharks that we think exist, there could be many, many more. So, we're just going to go over the few species that I found some information on a little at a time. Most of them don't actually have regular names, but they are known by their scientific names. So I may butcher some of these names, but I will do my best to pronounce them as great as possible. So, welcome in, everybody, and hashtag how's it feel? Let's get that hashtag going out there, you guys, because you know what? Our sharks are important. They've lived for millions and millions of years, and we need them in our oceans. And if you want to learn more about my plans to help end shark finning and the purposes of these videos, you can watch my video called Why I Made Amazing Sharks, which spells out my intense plan for what I'd like to accomplish before the end of my life, or at least get started. And I hope you enjoy my channel. Be sure to subscribe, comment, give me ideas of what you'd like to learn about, and I will make you a video just like Mr. McCooney got. All right, you guys, here we go. Prehistoric and extinct sharks. All right, so many of our shark species we know are found through shark teeth. So I thought I'd start off with a little information about how shark teeth become fossilized. Sharks can shed many thousands of teeth throughout their lifetime. In order for these teeth to fossilize, they must sink to the seafloor and be quickly covered by sediment. Rapid burial is important for fossilization for a number of reasons. Um, First, the sediment acts to protect the teeth from weathering, abrasion, and scavenging that could occur if they were exposed to open water and currents. Secondly, burial also limits exposure to oxygen and bacteria, which are responsible for decay. The process of fossilization is a slow one that usually takes thousands of years. In the case of sharks' teeth, they are preserved through a process known as permineralization, which occurs as the water seeps down through the sediments and over the teeth. This water carries different minerals in it that are deposited into open pore spaces in the teeth. The most common minerals are silica and calcite, but other local minerals are deposited as well. Depending on which minerals are present, teeth can be found in a wide variety of different colors, ranging from blue-gray to black to orange-red to white to green. The reason we only find the teeth for the most part, every now and then we do also find vertebrae, but the reason that we mostly find the teeth is because sharks are cartilaginous fishes, which means that they're made of cartilage. Cartilage is also what makes up your nose and your ears, so as you know, it's not very hard. It does not mineralize to the extent that bone does, and as a result, breaks down much quicker and easier than bony elements. Teeth are the most common part of the shark that is fossilized, but it's not uncommon to also find vertebral central in the same sediments. In very rare instances, when an individual is buried very quickly under the right circumstances, portions of the cartilage can be preserved. This is seen in environments that are low energy with high sedimentation rates. These specimens can preserve the neurocranium teeth and articulated vertebral centra. You can find shark teeth that are fossils everywhere, but mostly in sedimentary rocks or unconsolidated sediments. These are rocks that form through the compression of loose sediments like sands, mud, silts, and clays over thousands of millions of years. Many of these sediments have not been around long enough to compress into rock yet in Florida, so they are still unconsolidated. Fossil shark teeth are found in sedimentary rocks that are specifically marine derived, meaning that the sediments were originally laid down underwater in the ocean. Earth's oceans have risen and fallen many times due to changes in climate. This means sediments originally deposited underwater 10,000 years ago may be on dry land today. To find fossil shark teeth today, you must find exposed sediments or sedimentary rocks that are marine derived. In Florida, that is relatively easy because the state is surrounded by water and has been periodically submerged during high stands of the oceans in the past. Not all marine sediments, however, yield great numbers of teeth. Areas that were shallow marine environments in the past tend to have more teeth because the sharks were present there in the past. The sharks were probably drawn into these areas looking for food and cover. It can be hit or miss, so, don't expect to go out today and find a shark tooth. But, a good way to look for shark teeth is to look in areas where they've been found in the past. Now, you can determine if this shark tooth is a fossil or not in a number of different ways. Color can be an indicator of age in some situations, but not all the time. Modern shark teeth, both the crown and the root, are typically white in color. Fossil teeth are permineralized and are usually darker colored. There are instances where fossil teeth exhibit a white crown, however, the root is usually a darker gray or beige color. Another method for determining if a shark tooth is modern or fossil is by asking, where was the tooth found? If it was found in a creek 50 miles from the nearest ocean, it's safe to assume that the tooth is a fossil. When you find a shark tooth at a beach, you may need to look at its color to figure out its age. Identifying the species may also help. While many of the species found in the southeast today have been around for 4 to 5 million years, some of the older teeth are extinct species and no longer alive today. All right, you guys. So our first shark we're going to be discussing is the hibiscus. The hibiscus, they lived about 303.4 million to 66 million years ago and is possibly one of the longest living prehistoric sharks of all time. It's definitely the longest living one on my list. The hibiscus looks quite similar to modern day sharks, which can't be said about the other sharks listed. Although it did have large spikes that protruded from its dorsal fins, these spikes were more likely ways a shark could defend itself against potential predators. It lived for a very long time in various places around the world. Today, fossils have been found everywhere and all from different eras. One of the more interesting features of the hibiscus has to do with its teeth. The hibiscus had teeth that were arranged into 2 sets in its mouth, teeth at the front and then teeth at the back. The teeth at the front were helpful when seizing its prey, while the teeth at the back were rounder and helpful when crushing things like shells. Because of this interesting setup of teeth, it doesn't appear if any prey would successfully be able to get away with the hibiscus. Other than much larger creatures in the ocean that preyed on hibiscus, the shark was a major predator in the sea. All right, the hibiscus shark typically grew about 6.6 feet in length, with larger specimens about 9.8 feet. It possessed a streamlined body shape similar to modern sharks with 2 similar sized dorsal fins. Dentinous spines were present on the dorsal fins of the hibiscus, which in this genus exhibit a rib-like ornamentation located towards the tip of the spine, with rows of hooked denticles present on the posterior side. The males possess claspers, specialized organs that directly insert sperm into the female, which are still present in modern sharks. Several hybrid species were later reassigned to Miristodones, um, though the placement of that just depends on what type of shark it was. Hibiscus was thought to have been an active predator which was capable of consuming swiftly moving prey, probably predominantly cephalopods and to a lesser extent fish. Based on fossilized stomach contents, it has been proposed that Hibiscus was a more active hunter than its close relatives like Asteracanthus, which likely fed on benthic prey. A preserved specimen of Hybidus has yet been found with over 100 belemnite, a type of extinct squid-like cephalopod rasta, hard mineralized internal elements in its stomach, which may have resulted in its death. Hybidus' buried dentation would have allowed it to opportunistically exploit a variety of food sources. Sharper teeth would have been used to catch slippery prey, while flatter teeth probably helped them crush shelled animals. The large spines on the first and second dorsal fins were likely defensive structures intended to protect against attacks from Hybidus' own predators. So that is what we know about the Hybidus shark. Very interesting. All right, our next shark we're going to learn about is known as the Ginsu shark. This is a very interesting shark, and the reason it's called a Ginsu shark is because its teeth were exceptionally sharp. It lived about 107 to 73 million years ago during the late Albanian to late Campanian of the late Cretaceous. This shark, This shark measured up to 26 feet in length, weighed over 10,900 pounds. It was one of the largest sharks that ever lived, and it has a similar appearance and build to the modern great white shark. It was an apex predator in its ecosystem and preyed upon a large variety of marine animals, including mosasaurs, plesiosaurs, sharks, and other large fish, pterosaurs, and occasionally dinosaurs. Its teeth were up to 3.1 inches long and were razor-like and had thick enamel built for stabbing and slicing prey. It was also among the fastest swimming shark as it was endothermic. Like most modern sharks, it has the capability of being slightly warm-blooded. It bore a resemblance to the modern great white shark in size, shape, and ecology, but the two sharks are not closely related, and their similarities are a result of convergent evolution. It has been traditionally grouped with a family of laminoid sharks that traditionally include other genres, resulting in a paraphyletic or polyphyletic family. Distinguishing characteristics of the Gensu shark include a nearly symmetrical or slanted triangular shape, razor-like, and non-serrated cutting edges of the teeth. It also has visible tooth necks and a thick enamel coating. The dentation possesses a basic dental characteristics of a mackerel shark with tooth rows closely spaced without any overlap. Anterior teeth are straight and near symmetrical, while lateral-posterior teeth are slanted. The side of the tooth facing the mouth is convex and possesses a massive protuberance and nutrient grooves on the root, whereas the labial side, which faces outwards, is flat or slightly swollen. The juveniles possess lateral cusplets in all their teeth. Analysis of skull and scale patterns suggests that the shark had a conical head with a dorsally flat and wide skull. The rostrum does not extend much forward from the frontal margin of the brain case, suggesting that the snout was blunt. Similar to modern crocodile sharks and thruster sharks, it had proportionally large eyes with the orbit roughly taking up to one-third of the entire skull length, giving it acute vision. Good eyesight was important when hunting the large prey the Ginsu shark fed on. In contrast, the more smell-reliant other sharks were less advanced orbital but stronger with olfactory processes, was more suitable for an opportunistic scavenger. It is suggested that this shark can use thermoregulation, which means that it had the ability to regulate its temperature, which made it easier for it to live in the habitat that it currently lived in. They had highly dense, overlapping plastoid scales parallel to the body axis and patterned in parallel needles separated by U-shaped grooves, each groove having a mean width of about 45 micrometers. This formation of scales allows efficient drag reduction and enhanced high-speed velocity capabilities, a morpho type seen only in the fastest known sharks. It had the most extreme case of a type 4 tail fin, having the highest known Cobb's angle or curvature of the tail vertebrae and tail cartilage, ever recorded in mackerel sharks. The type 4 tail fin structure represents a beal with maximal symmetry of the tail fin lobes, which is most efficient in fast swimming among sharks. It is only found in lamnids. Although no fossil evidence for it has been found, it is inferred that this shark was oviviparous, as all modern mackerel sharks are, and this means youngs are hatched and grow inside the mother while competing against litter mates through cannibalism such as ethology or egg eating. It inhabited oleotrophic and pelagic waters where predators such as large mosasaurs and macropredatory fish were common. It is likely that it was also an R-selected shark where many infants are produced to offset high infant mortality rates. Like all mackerel sharks, it grows a growth ring in its vertebrae every year and is aged through measuring each band. Due to the rarity of well-preserved vertebrae, only a few individuals have been aged. There is a linear equation for calculating the age of this shark, which is represented by the equation TL equals 0.281 plus 5.746 CD. In this, the TL represents the total body length and the CD representing the centrum diameter or the diameter of each band. Using this, we have calculated that this shark grew quite a lot during the first 2 years of life, doubling the length within 3.3 years. They were born um they were born rather small, 36 pounds and 4 feet at birth. And this made sure that this shark was able to survive as much as possible by skipping those mortal years as quickly as possible. The shark was a very aggressive predator. Um, According to a diverse number of fossils that showed signs of devourment, it was an active apex predator that fed on much of the variety of marine megafauna in the late Cretaceous. The highest trophic level it occupied was a position shared only with the large mosasaurs during the later stages of the late Cretaceous. It played a critical role in many marine ecosystems. It preyed on other active predators, including ichthyosaurids, plesiosaurs, turtles, mosasaurs, and other sharks. Most fossils of this shark feeding on other animals consist of large and deep bite marks and punctures on bones, occasionally with teeth embedded in them. Isolated bones of mosasaurs and other marine reptiles have been partially dissolved by digestion or found in the poop, are also examples of its feeding. There are a few skeletons of this shark containing stomach contents, including a large skeleton which possesses skeletal remains of large ichthyothoid Zephanatus and a mosasaur in its stomach region. It may have also occasionally fed on pterosaurs, evidenced by a set of cervical vertebrae of a pterodon from the Neobara Formation with the shark's tooth lodged deep between them. Although it cannot be certain if the fossil itself was a result of predation or scavenging, it was likely that the pterodon and similar pterosaurs were natural targets for predators like this shark, as they would routinely enter water to feed and thus be well within reach. It was also an opportunistic feeder, and many have scavenged from time to time. Many fossils with this feeding mark show no sign of healing, an indicator of a deliberate predatory attack on a live animal, leading to the possibility that at least some of the feeding marks were made from scavenging. Remains of partial skeletons of dinosaurs show signs of feeding and digestion by the Ginsu shark. They were likely scavenged carcasses swept into the ocean due to the paleogeographical location of the fossils being that of an open ocean. We assume that the hunting strategies are very similar to the great white shark and modern requiem sharks and land nibs. It is suggested that it would do a massive ram its prey with maximum velocity and strength to inflict single fatal blows, sometimes so powerful that prey would be propelled out of the water by the impact's force. You can see that a lot in great white shark feeding. Notable locations of the shark include North America, Europe, Israel, and Kazakhstan. It lived alongside many predators that shared a similar trophic level in a diverse pelagic ecosystem during the Cretaceous. Most of these predators included large marine reptiles, some of which already occupied the highest trophic level when the shark first appeared. There are no causes of extinction that are known for this shark, but we can make some summation. Since its peak in size during the the size and the distribution of the shark's fossils gradually declined until its eventual demise during the Campanian, we noted that the age of the youngest fossils of the shark differed between continents. In Australia, the youngest shark fossils were dated approximately 83 Ma during the Santonian, while the youngest North American fossils known at the time were dated in the early Campanian, which were at least 2 million years older than the youngest fossils in Europe. The difference between ages suggests that it may have become locally extinct in such areas over time until the genus as a whole went extinct. It has been noted that the decline of this shark coincides with the rise of newer predators such as Tylosaurus, suggesting that increasing pressure from competition with the mosasaur and other predators of similar trophic levels may have played a major contribution to its decline and eventual extinction. Another possible factor was the gradual shallowing and shrinking of the western interior seaway, which would have led to the disappearance of the pelagic environments preferred by the shark. This factor does not explain the decline and extinction of it elsewhere, but it has been suggested that the extinction may have been helped to further increase the diversity of mosasaurs. And that, my friends, is the Ginsu shark. Alright, and our last shark for this video, and we will continue this discussion on prehistoric sharks next Saturday, is going to be the Stethlocanthus. Look at this guy, isn't he cool looking? He is literally a hammerhead shark. No, he's not actually related to hammerhead sharks, but he does have a hammer on his head. He lived about 360 million to 340 million years ago, making it one of the very oldest sharks. Often called the anvil shark, has an odd dorsal fin that it's now known for. We all know what the fin on a modern-day shark's upper back looks like. The Stethlocanthus dorsal fin is in the same location, yet it's not pointed like a modern-day shark's. Instead, it had a flat top that looks to be shaped like an anvil. On top of this flattened fin were enlarged denticles, which experts have been attempting to explain for a long time now. While many theories suggest why this dorsal fin was shaped this way, the most common theory suggests that the fin has something to do with the mating between the Stethlocanthus, as only males seem to have the anvil. Other than this crazy feature, it didn't get very big in length and were often much smaller than your average human today. This shark is also very rat shark-like. So some more details about Stethlocanthus. It had different sizes depending on the species. Some were 4.9 feet, while others reached 9.8. It had a shark-like appearance, however, is best known for its unusually shaped dorsal fin, which, as we said, resembles an anvil or ironing board. Small spikes covered this crest and the ratfish's head as well. The crest may have played a role in mating rituals, aided in clamping to the belly of larger marine animals, or been used to frighten potential predators. Like other members of this family, they had unique pelvic girdles, single crown and non-growing scales, a pectoral fin composed of metaphygium with an accompanying whip attached, and a distinctive first dorsal fin and spine. Termed the spine brush complex, the neurocranium had a narrow suborbital shelf, a broad suborbital shelf, a short audio-octavial division, large orbits, and cladonic teeth that aligned precisely. In addition to these features, they also had a male pelvic claspers with non-prismatic calcified cartilage at the distal ends. The spine brush complex occupies the same site as the first dorsal fin on other ratfish and contains a basal plate extending inside an unusually posterior pointing dorsal fin spine composed of turbuloclear dentin. These spines resemble those of modern sharks and rays, but curiously lack any enamel-like surface tissue. The trabecular dentin contains patches of fibers suggesting attachments to the apexal musculature. The way these muscles would have been positioned implies that the spine could have been moved in anteroposterior direction. The so-called brush is not fibrous, as was originally believed, but consists of a number of parallel membranous tubules made of globicular calcified cartilage. The brush base and basal plate are covered in thin acellular bone layer. Zangirl asserts that these tubules are similar to erectile tissues in humans, and thus the complex may have been inflatable. The complex itself is covered in up to 9 rows of large denticles pointing anteriorly. The dorsal side of the head had its own collection of denticles, which pointed posteriorly. The presence of these large denticles has led to theories that the spine brush complex, in combination with the denticles on the head, was used to scare away predators by simulating the mouth of a larger fish. The complex has been affirmed only in males and only in those males that have reached sexual maturity. Whether the complex was present in females of the species is still unknown. Another theory for the spine brush complex is that it is involved in either attracting a mate or in the mating process itself. The pectoral fins of this shark were composed of triangular-shaped metapterygium observed in modern-day sharks, but had an additional long metapterygial structure called a fin whip. These fin whips contain at least 22 axial cartilages and extended past the pelvic fins. The three most anterior axils are shorter than the more posterior axils. The purpose of the fin whips is unknown, but it has been suggested they were used during mating. The tooth files are whorl-shaped, and the palaquadrate is scalloped with 6 to 7 recesses to allow for tooth families. The individual teeth are widely separated from each other in the teeth whorls. The teeth themselves are of claydonate variety. The bases of the teeth are broadest on the lingual side, and each support a single large cusp and 2 pairs of similar accessory cusps for a total of 5 cusps. The medial and most lateral cusps are the most fluted. The teeth appear to be mostly orthodentine, but when viewed in cross-section change abruptly to osteodentine. The enameloid is a single-layered overlaying of the thick mantle of the orthodentine. In addition to the dentation of the teeth, there were also a number of bucopharyngeal denticles lining the orphanix. The denticles lining the top of the head and the top of the spine brush complex are larger than the dentation teeth and they appear as elongate monocuspid denticles. The pelvic girdles consist of sheets of prismatic cartilage, each in the shape of a subtriangular rounded plate. The anterior edge of each girdle is slightly concave, while the posterior is convex. There appears to be no union of the two plates. There are 2 types of pelvic girdles found in this shark: the primitive condition and the deprived condition. In the primitive condition of the pelvic girdles have a metaphorological element supporting only 1 or 2 radials. Most of the fin radials are attached directly to the pelvic plate. The derived condition differs in that there is a much higher number of radials supported by the pelvic plate. This feature, accompanied with a broadening of the pelvic girdle in order to accommodate the increased number of radios, is a characteristic of this shark and other simiroids. The males had claspers that were club-shaped at the distal ends and composed of non-prismatic globerocalcified cartilage. There was some caudal fin variety among these species. While some had low-angle heterocaudal tails, some had tails approaching hemicartial. The broad hypocaudal lobe was supported by long splayed fin radials. It is certain that this shark was a carnivore, and considering its small size, probably fed on small fish, brachiopods, and crinoid oceals like other sharks of its time. Additionally, as the spine brush complex is a rather large structure, it seems likely that in combination with the forward-facing denticles on the structure, it would have produced a drag force during the fast locomotion. Therefore, it was probably a slow-moving shark. The fins of this shark were also smaller than in other sharks of the same size, and their teeth were also on the small side relative to other small Paleozoic sharks, suggesting that this may have been a bottom dweller. Considering that most of this species were recovered in Bear Gulch limestone in Montana, it is possible that this area was not only a breeding ground for other sharks but also for Stephalacanthus, suggesting that they were migratory. The several species of Stellacanthus discovered in the late 1800s were established based solely upon isolated spines, which initially confused paleontologists into thinking the spines constituted a new kind of fin. They originally believed that the spines were part of the pectoral fins and that they were not bilaterally symmetrical. The presence of globular calcified cartilage in both the spine brush complex base plate and brush and the claspers is interesting because it is the first record of such large mass of globular calcified cartilage in chondrothene. The high presence of globally calcified cartilage raises several questions about the evolution of these sharks. It is possible that the prismatic cartilage, a defining feature of these sharks, is an evolutionary derivative of globally calcified cartilage. If this were the case, the primitive sharks would have appeared with shark-like scales based instead of globular calcified cartilage. Another feature of note is the thin acellular bone layer coating the brush and base plate of the spine brush complex. It is possible that the coating on the spine brush complex is the first record of an endoskeletal bone in primitive sharks, and that these endoskeletal features were lost in extant species of these sharks. It is also possible that the fin spine could be a unique distribution of dermal skeleton and thus derived from neural crest. Following this assumption, the brush would be a fin base plate extension. The endoskeletal location and absence of fin radial supports the latter hypothesis. It's very difficult to define the taxonomic relationship to this shark as there is much variability in the characteristics of the discovered specimens. So we're not sure where it exactly falls, but as a whole, it has been reclassified as part of the Holocephali, meaning that it may have been more closely related to modern chimeras than to sharks. All right, you guys, that is the end of our video for this week. Next week, we will continue on our list of prehistoric and extinct sharks. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that. Big shout out to M. Mooney. It was so nice to meet you, and I hope you tune in and enjoy this video. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Remember, subscribe, like, and comment, you guys. Every comment I get, I reply to. And if you want to see something specific, tell me about it and I'll do it for you. I have no problems with that. All right, you guys, see you all next Saturday.